Please call the medic, this beat came to me on a stretcher. In the lab, I step to the mic and feel like I'm Dexter. I'm a man, dark world, but I'm still shining like treasure. Yeah, I got joy like ha ha ha. Wait, and I can't wear smiles, that's fake. Then I'm between love and strong. Hate clock says no time for mistakes. Ring the alarm, sirens go off, but I'm calm. My life resides in his palm. Submit to my pops, respect for my mom. Honor them both, so my life will be long. Third time, get the charm of the third strike. Had to.
What's going on, drivers? How's everybody out there doing this evening? Hope everybody's doing great, staying out of trouble, being safe, all that good stuff that, we need to do out here. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. You are listening to Trucking with olesnapper. Well, we're going to talk about why drivers leave poly. All right, and it's going to kind of be a poly update video as well, but I'm going to talk about why drivers leave poly. I've ran into a couple that have left or were leaving, and typically it's one or two answers or or both answers. It's downtime and equipment. That's normally what I hear. I don't hear nothing else. It's either downtime or equipment. Downtime, I don't quite understand a driver leaving for downtime, because if you're having downtime that's not equipment breakdown related, like if you're down waiting on a load or something like that, that's most likely your fault. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to talk down to you. If you're working for poly, don't think I'm talking down to you, because I'm not. I had to learn when I first started, like the first couple months, I was trying to figure it out, because I was getting a lot of downtime and couldn't understand why. I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm down so much between these loads. I was doing a restart after every load. You can't make no money like that. So it took a little bit of talking to other drivers, talking to the guy that runs the orientation, and stuff like that to figure it out. But here's the key to not having downtime. Okay, when you pick up a load, let's do an example here. Let's say you get a load from Grand Prairie, Jamestown, New York. All right, that's a pretty common load. We run from Grand Prairie to Jamestown, New York. And I like that run, by the way. But let's say you get that load. When you pick up that load off the yard, well, Jamestown's going to have a hard appointment time on it. So you already know when you're delivering. You ain't even got to figure it up. Look at your appointment time. Look at your hours, and say, okay, I'm going to be available that day or the next day. Put yourself out for the next day. If you're short on hours, put yourself out for the next day. Let's say your load delivers in Jamestown on Thursday. Put yourself on the backhaul board for Friday morning, or Thursday afternoon, whatever. But I can almost promise you, you're gonna have a backhaul before you ever get empty. You're gonna know where you're going. Now, let's say you got a load and you're going into Grand Prairie. Let's say you pick up Coca-Cola over in New Jersey, headed to Grand Prairie, or you're headed to Mesquite. That's a backhaul I've hauled before. So you pick up your load down there in New Jersey, you figure it up. All right, you're going to be in Mesquite on, let's just say you're going to be in Mesquite by Wednesday at noon. So you should be unloaded by 2, 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. Well, you're not getting a load out of Grand Prairie Wednesday afternoon, not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So put yourself on the board for Thursday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. They're going to give you a Thursday load. Now, here's the kicker. Most of the time, that Thursday load will be ready on Wednesday. That's why a lot of times, if y'all see me, I come in there, I drop my trailer, then I go around and go to shipping, and then go get my new load. And, then I pull around with my new load, and drop off my paperwork for my old load, and then pull out of there, right? And a lot of times it's from that right there. That load may not have been supposed to be ready till the next day. But I'm a smoker, and I can't smoke on the property, so I'm trying to get in and out of there as fast as possible. All right. Now, here's another kicker to downtime. Anytime Paulie calls me, I'm taking something. You can look back through the records. I ain't never, ever, ever, not one time turned down every load they called me with. If they call me with and they're going through the loads, I'm taking something. And this is normally what I tell them. What's the longest load you got? Send it to me. I don't even ask what it is. I just want the longest load, and I'll take the longest load to wherever it's going. I have even taken loads that I normally would not like, or I didn't want them, but it was the only load they had. I took a load one time. It had a stop in Pittsburgh, and then at a mom and pop place, and then it had another stop in Washington D.C. or right outside of Washington D.C. in a really bad neighborhood. I mean, like people were checking my trailer out and stuff over there in that neighborhood. But and on a normal day, like if I was a full blown owner operator, I'd never took that load. There ain't no way in hell. But it's the only thing they had available, so I took it. They never call me that I don't take the load. Here's another thing: repowers. Man, I've taken what, 2 or 3 repowers. Hell, I got one tomorrow. A truck is broke down in Oregon, and I'm gonna go grab his load. Which, by the way, Paulie, I know y'all listen to my videos. I may not make it. I told Outbound that I may not make it. They're telling me I'm the only option, so if I don't make it, don't fire me. But I'm telling you, I may not make it. I got to run 44 miles over, deliver this load in the morning, and then run 250 or well, to be about 300 miles back down into Oregon, down to where the other driver's at, swap trailers with him, and then run back up here to make another appointment at 4:30 in the morning at the same place. I may not make it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. But like I was saying, I never turned down a repower. If they need help, I'm going to help them. I did a repower the last time I was up here from a driver that was having truck issues. And that repower didn't really benefit me at all. It actually hurt me because I was up all day, and then they called me that evening and they're like, "Hey, we got a truck broke down. Will you help us out?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, I ended up being up all day that day and then all night that night so that I could make their load. I was super tired, but that's the way it goes. If they need the help, I'm going to help them out, and in hopes that they remember that whenever I need help or whenever I need a hand. So I think that's another thing that makes a driver more successful here and not have as much downtime. All right, so to recap that, never turn down a load. If they call you, take something. No matter what it is, just take something. I took a load from Grand Prairie to Laredo. That doesn't benefit, man, that's a short run. That didn't benefit me none. I like going to Laredo, but the load doesn't really benefit me any. But I know they needed to cover it, so I took it. I did the same thing in Chester. I ran a little 150-mile run down to, I can't remember the name of that little town, but it was a 150-mile run that didn't even deliver till the next day. But I do that so that, because I know them loads need to be covered. And they helped me out because when I covered that load, he said, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you got for the next day?" He said, "Well, I got a transfer load going to up north." I said, "Give it to me." So it worked out. You know what I'm saying? And I may not would have gotten offered that had I not done that favor for him, covering that little short, 150-mile run. But that's that. That's why I don't think downtime is a really good reason to be leaving. Because downtime is generally going to be your fault unless it's breakdown related. If it's breakdown related, that's a different story, and we're about to get into that. Now, equipment's the other reason that I hear drivers leaving. This one, I kind of understand it. All right, I do kind of understand. As a driver, we spend more time in our trucks than we do at our home. So when you go to work for a company, it's basically like the company's saying, "Okay, yeah, it's not your equipment, but we've set it up so that you're comfortable when you're doing your job for us." Because think about it. You figure it up. You're going to spend 4, 5, 6 weeks on the road. You're going to go home for a week. You're spending most of your life in this truck. So you want it to be comfortable like you are at home. You want a refrigerator. You want to be able to cook on your truck. You want to be able to move around. You want to feel comfortable, right? You want a piece of equipment that doesn't break down that often. Because yeah, you may get breakdown pay, but that doesn't come anywhere near to what you make when you're going down the road. So if you have equipment that's breaking down all the time, you're going to have drivers that are bouncing all the time because they can't make a living. I make 70 cents per mile here. Now, let's say I started having a bunch of breakdowns. If I had a bunch of breakdowns, I would leave too. Because even if I'm making 70 cents per mile, if I start having a lot of breakdowns, I can go to work for Joe Schmo over there, take 10 cents a mile less or even 15 cents a mile less. And if he's not having breakdowns, he's got good equipment, I'm going to make more money, right? So that's why I totally get why some drivers, are like, hey, the equipment, that's why I'm leaving, and yada, yada, yada. But I normally try to tell them, like, I ran into a driver over at the mechanic shop there in Grand Prairie, and he was on his fourth truck in 2 months. That's a lot of breakdowns. That's excessive. And he's like, man, I'm just running at the end of my rope, man. I'm tired of dealing with this. And I said, dude, go down there and talk to them. I said, go to that window up there and talk to them. Go upstairs, talk to them. Get a hold of them. Let them know, look, you're at the end of your rope. You're trying to pay your bills at home, and you can't make a living if you keep breaking down. They're going to understand that. Now, whether they can fix that problem right at this exact moment or not, they may not, but they may have some ideas, and it'll get their mind turning on what they can do to help you out, so that they can keep you happy, especially if you're a good driver. Nobody wants to lose a good driver, right? So communication is key too. You got to communicate with them. That don't mean walk in there and cuss everybody in the office out, because that ain't gonna get you nowhere either. You got to communicate with them in as nice a way as possible. You know what I'm saying? But the equipment, I do understand. I do understand that. Y'all heard me in one of my videos, man. I had a dream that I pulled on the yard and there were Kenworths or something on the yard, Kenworth 680s or something. That's how bad I hate internationals. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. Internationals always have a lot of downtime in them. But I don't know how their Peterbilts are. I haven't driven a Pete, so I don't know if their Petes have less breakdowns or not. I know a couple of the other drivers I've talked to that are in them say they love them. They have had a few breakdowns in them, but they don't seem to be as high as they are on the international side. But at the same time, we're company drivers. We don't own the equipment, so we deal with what we got. You know. This is going to be my own little personal gripe here, and this is kind of a warning to the rest of the drivers out there. If you go home and you park your truck on a lot, like when I go home, I park my truck in Houston. Okay, it's 3 hours from there to my house, but I don't want to have to deal with trying to get a load home. So it's easier for me to say, hey, get me to Houston, bam, drop my truck off there, get in my personal vehicle, go home, right? Park it right there at our yard there in Houston. But this is what happened to me the last time I parked my truck in Houston. Somebody got in my truck and rifled through all my stuff. Then they took, whoever it was, they took my tire socks. They took a set of pallet pullers. They took a gallon of oil and all of my washer fluid. And it was like, when I got back to the truck, I was so frustrated. I didn't call nobody because I was so mad. I was like, literally, the crap you took from me. And if you're listening to this, man, the crap you took from me, you could have just walked into the mechanic shop, asked them for it, and they'd have given it to you. Probably no questions asked. Tire socks, they know that they sometimes come off when you're traveling with them. It does happen. They know they get lost, things like that. They've got tire socks down there in the mechanic shop. You do not have to steal that stuff off of another truck. All right? Because then you just passed your problem on to a fellow driver. And that's not right, man. Don't do that. But I got something for you for next time. Because I'm seriously thinking about rigging my rigging my sleeper up with a couple of cameras, and hide them. Yeah, next time someone rifles through all my stuff in my sleeper, I'm gonna put them on blast. 'Cause I'm gonna have them on. I'm gonna have them on the old tube, man. I don't think I'll put them on YouTube, but I will send them to somebody. Somebody in charge. Please don't get into somebody else's truck. If you're looking for a spare truck, I'll open the door, and if it looks like somebody's living in it, I call it living in it because we basically do. I go on and I find another truck. I don't mess with that truck because someone's personal items are in there, you know, and that's their personal space. And I'm not going to get in their personal space. Just like I don't want people in mine. Now, if you see me at the yard, you want to hang out and talk, and you want to come up and sit in the passenger seat and we kick back and have a talk, that's one thing. But climb up in my truck when I'm not there, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. Well, my truck's due for a DOT inspection, I think, by the end of the month. Hopefully, they get me back there in time because I want to get it done and go home. I am way past ready to go home. I always work through the holidays every year. So I worked through the holidays this year. I haven't been home since before Thanksgiving. And I'm just ready to go home. You know, I was kind of disappointed when they called me with this repower thing because I already had a backhaul. And I'm just ready to get to the house. I'm ready to get to Dallas, get this DOT inspection done, and go home. I'm ready to get out of this truck for a little while. I'm already starting to, how when you're out too long, you start getting irritated. You get irritated at everything. I'm getting to that point where everything irritates me. You know, the wind hits me wrong. I start getting angry. It's almost like a hangry. It's almost like a hangry thing, man. When you've been in the truck too long. And my birthday just passed. I worked through Christmas. I worked through Thanksgiving. I worked through New Year's. Now I'm ready to go home. And I'll get there. I'll get there. But overall, Poly is a pretty good company, you know. And you drivers know I'm going to tell you one way or another exactly how my experiences are. I ain't going to get on here and tell you all the great things, and nothing bad. I mean, there is no such thing as a perfect trucking company, not by any means. But Poly's pretty decent. We can pick our own outbound loads. I really love that. So if they do have a wide selection, let's say they got a load going to Jamestown, they got a load going to Michigan, they got a load going to Kent, Washington. I might pick the one going to Kent. Sometimes I'll pick the one going to Jamestown. It kind of depends on how I feel at that moment. You know. Also, I look at the weather. I can kind of avoid the weather. I don't mind running the East Coast, but I don't want to be there all the time. But I'll take a couple East Coast loads, and then I want a West Coast load. And then I'm ready for another East Coast load, and I kind of even it out like that. And it's really nice to have that ability to be able to pick where I want to go and where I don't want to go. Now, if you live in Nebraska, we don't go there. As far as I know, we don't hire out of Nebraska. We don't hire out of California. I think there was another state we didn't hire out of, but I don't remember. It might have been West Texas, maybe. I ain't got my little map thing in front of me. It tells me the little areas we don't hire out of. But Poly takes pretty good care of us. The money's great. I've done really well here, monetary wise. I've made really good money. My miles are great. But like I said, that took me a little bit of learning. It took me a little bit of putting it together. When I first started, my first week or two, it was kind of, doing a lot of restarts here. But it was my own fault, you know. So if you're working for Poly and you're getting upset because you've got too much downtime, remember to get yourself on the board as early as you possibly can. You don't have to be there and be empty before you put yourself on the board. That's what I was doing when I first started. And they give them loads out 2 days in advance. So you know how long you wait if you get to Grand Prairie, get empty, and then put yourself on the board? I did that. That don't work. You want to be on the board at a minimum of 2 days before you get empty. That's at a minimum. You want to try to be on the board 3 or 4 days before you get empty if you got a long enough load. But at a minimum, 2 days before you get empty, you want to be on the board. And use the Qualcomm. Put yourself on the board with the Qualcomm. I've never put myself on the board with the Qualcomm and it gotten overlooked. Every time I put myself on the board with the Qualcomm, it always works out. They'll call me. That's backhaul or outbound, either or. It always works out, and it works out great. So anyway, I hope this helps some of you out there. And if you're thinking about coming to Poly, it's a really good company. They treat us really well. Um, my only complaint, like I said, would be probably equipment. I'm not a big fan of internationals. It's kind of like if you're a Chevy guy or a Ford guy. To me, I'm not a Ford guy at all. I'm a Chevy guy, and an international is like a Ford. So it's like I'm being forced to drive a Ford around the country. Just jokes, just jokes. Anyway, y'all take care, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and keep trucking.
That's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I can play with the pros and act like a rookie so they overlook me. Then I double up again, none of their knows. None of them cold, they just got lucky but never adapted. So I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close. I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat before we ever spoke. I'm ready for smoke. I need to know everything, who and the what and the where. I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious.